road to my daughter. This is a true story. My name is Diego Morales, and on June 1st, 2019, I died on a road in Guatemala. At least I should have. What carried me 8 kilometers while I was unconscious wasn't human, and the marks it left on my body are still here 4 years later. If you're watching this from Central America or anywhere with a history of drownings, listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might save your life, or at least help you understand what's following you. By the end of this story, you'll understand why I can never walk alone at night again, why there's a handprint on my shoulder that appears every June 1st, and why I'm telling you this now before it's too late for someone else. I was 32 years old when it happened, a security manager at Central Commercial Oakland in Guatemala City. Decent job, decent pay, but my life was falling apart in ways that mattered more than money. 8 months divorced. My daughter Isabella, only 18 months old, lived with her mother in Las Pilas Comapa, a village so remote it barely appeared on maps. 4 families total. That's it. Stuck between 2 rivers on the Guatemala-El Salvador border where the jungle swallows roads and cell towers don't exist. The divorce wasn't my choice. Her family never accepted me. Wrong background, wrong connections, wrong everything. When she left, she took Isabella 3 hours away to that village, and her mother made sure I knew I wasn't welcome to visit often. Every trip felt like begging for permission to see my own daughter. I lived alone in a cramped apartment that smelled like old coffee and exhaust fumes from the street below. Worked 60-hour weeks because what else was there coming home to silence? To pictures of Isabella I'd taken before everything fell apart. I sent money every week. Called when they'd let me. But being a father through phone calls and wire transfers was slowly killing me. June 1st, 2019. Dia del Niño, Children's Day in Guatemala. Morning light streamed through my apartment window, cutting through the dust particles floating in the air. I could hear vendors setting up on the street below, their voices mixing with bus engines and the constant hum of the city waking up. The smell of fresh tortillas drifted up from the panaderia downstairs, making my stomach growl even though I'd already eaten. I'd just cashed my paycheck that morning at 9:30, regular salary plus 2 performance bonuses. My boss had clapped me on the shoulder and said I was doing excellent work. The money felt heavy in my pocket. Heavier than it should have. I stopped at Yugateria Fantasia on 6th Avenue. The store was packed with parents buying last-minute gifts. Balloons everywhere, pop music blasting from speakers, kids running between aisles while exhausted employees tried to keep order. I bought a doll nearly a meter tall with brown curls and a blue dress. Bought shoes 2 size 4 with little flowers on the straps, a whole bag of clothes, toys, coloring books, everything a little girl should have. By the time I reached my mother's house, the bag was so heavy my shoulder ached. She lived in Zone 3 in a house my father had built before he died. Small yard, bougainvillea, climbing the walls, the perpetual smell of beans cooking on the stove. I spread the gifts across her kitchen table. She smiled, but her eyes held that worried look she'd had since the divorce. "You're going Saturday, right?" she asked, pouring coffee into chipped ceramic mugs. "Like you planned." "That's the plan." "Good. The roads are safer during the day." I nodded, but I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about Isabella, about her face when she saw the doll, about holding her, hearing her laugh. Then the neighbor's daughters appeared at the screen door, Camila and Estrella, 5 and 3 years old. Their father worked construction when he could find it. Their mother cleaned houses. I'd seen them playing in the dirt with sticks and rocks, making castles out of nothing. They saw the toys through the screen. Their eyes went wide, not greedy, just amazed, like they'd glimpsed something from another world. Camila pressed her face against the mesh. "Those are pretty." "For my daughter," I said. "Her birthday was last month." "She's lucky." That's when it hit me like a fist to the chest. What if Isabella was somewhere right now watching another child receive presents? What if she was waiting by the window wondering if her father remembered her? What if she thought I didn't care? 3 days suddenly felt like 3 years. "Mama," I said, "can you make me something to eat? I'm going to take a shower." "Now, Diego, it's still morning. You said Saturday." "I need to go today, right now." She started to argue but saw something in my face that stopped her. That desperate look I'd been carrying for 8 months. 20 minutes later, I was dressed, bag-packed, food wrapped in aluminum foil for the journey. I kissed my mother's cheek and headed for my car. The engine turned over once, twice, then just clicked uselessly. I tried again. Nothing. The battery was dead, or the starter or something I couldn't fix standing in my mother's driveway. I checked my watch. 10 o'clock. If I left now by bus, I could reach Las Pilas by evening, play with Isabella for a few hours, be back for work Monday morning at 7. Any rational person would have stopped there, would have called a mechanic, waited until Saturday, traveled during daylight like a sane human being. But I kept seeing Camila's face pressed against that screen door. Kept thinking about Isabella's eyes, those big brown eyes that looked just like her mother's, waiting for a father who never came. The first bus to Carretera, El Salvador, left at 10:45. I bought a ticket with sweaty bills, crammed myself between a woman with 3 chickens in a crate and a man who smelled like diesel fuel. The bus lurched forward, belching black smoke, and Guatemala City slowly disappeared behind us. The landscape changed as we traveled. Concrete gave way to fields, to jungle-paved roads, to dirt. The air got thicker, hotter, heavier with moisture. By 1:30, we'd reached the junction where I needed to transfer. 2 hours of waiting. I sat on a concrete wall under a corrugated metal roof, eating my mother's food and watching trucks pass. My phone battery ticked down slowly. 18%, 15, 12. An old woman sat next to me, her face like weathered leather wrapped in a shawl despite the heat. "Where you headed, son?" "Las Pilas, Comapa." Her eyes narrowed. "Long way. My daughter lives there." "Sweet child, I'm sure." She paused, studying me. "You traveling through Parula?" "Only way to get there." "Don't walk that road at night." Her voice dropped. "Not since the war. The stretch past Rio Parula, it's not right. Things there don't rest." I smiled politely the way you do with superstitious old people. "I'll be careful." "I mean it. People disappear on that road. Not robbery, not accidents. They just vanish. Or they arrive different. Changed. I knew a man once walked that road alone at night. Found him 3 days later sitting in the middle of the street, couldn't speak. Just rocked back and forth whimpering. Died a week later. Heart just stopped." "That's just stories," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Old legends." She looked at me with something like pity. "The war ended, but what it left behind didn't. You'll see." The second bus arrived before I could respond. I climbed aboard, finding a seat near the back. Through the grimy window, I watched her watching me. She raised one hand slowly, not waving goodbye, warning me, "Stop, turn back." The bus pulled away, and I told myself she was just a scared old woman. Rural people, they believe in ghosts and curses and spirits in the trees. I was educated, modern, a security professional. I didn't believe in things that went bump in the night. But part of me, some small voice in the back of my mind, whispered that maybe she knew something I didn't. The third bus broke down at 4 in the afternoon. We were still 2 hours from Las Pilas. The driver kicked the engine, swore in 3 languages, and finally told us all to get out. We were stranded on a road that barely qualified as a road, surrounded by jungle that pressed in from both sides like it wanted to swallow us. I started hitchhiking. A pickup truck took me 20 kilometers. A family in a sedan took me another 15. Each time I explained where I was going, I got the same reaction: hesitation, concern. One man asked why I was traveling so late. "My daughter," I said. "Could wait until morning." "Can't." He nodded slowly, like he understood something I didn't yet. "Be careful past the river. And if you see anyone on the road who shouldn't be there, don't stop. Don't talk to them. Just keep moving." "What do you mean, shouldn't be there?" But he'd already pulled over to let me out. By 8 o'clock, I was still 10 kilometers from Las Pilas, standing on the side of a dirt road as the sun disappeared behind the mountains. The sky turned from blue to purple to black in what felt like minutes. I could taste the rain coming, that metallic taste the air gets before a storm. My phone buzzed. 8% battery. No signal out here anyway. I turned it off to save what little power remained. A truck finally stopped. The driver was hauling grain heading close to Las Pilas. I climbed into the cab, grateful and exhausted. "Visiting?" he asked. "My daughter." "Good father." He paused. "You know the area?" "Been a few times." "Then you know about the bridge. Over Purula." "I know it." "Just drive careful if you're coming back through at night. That stretch from El Tempisque to El Coco Junction, it's dangerous." "Robbers. Worse." He kept his eyes on the road. "My cousin 2 years ago, he was driving that route around midnight. Saw a woman and a boy by the side of the road. Looked like they needed help. So he stopped. He's a good man, you understand. Wanted to help." "What happened?" "They got in his truck. Woman in front, boy in back. He started driving. Then he looked in the mirror and saw the boy's face. Said the skin was all wrong, swollen, gray, and the smell like something dead in water. He slammed the brakes, and when he looked again, they were gone. Just vanished. But the smell stayed for weeks. Couldn't get it out. Probably just scared, seeing things." The driver gave me a look that said he knew I didn't believe my own words. Maybe. But he never drove that route at night again. None of us do. He dropped me off at 10 o'clock in Las Pilas. The village was dark except for a few scattered lights from houses. I could hear dogs barking, the distant sound of a radio, playing ranchera music, cicadas screaming in the trees. My ex-mother-in-law answered the door. Her face hardened when she saw me. "Diego, is Isabella awake? It's late. Please, I brought presents. It's Children's Day." She stepped aside, but her body language screamed disapproval. The house smelled like corn and lard, like every rural home I'd ever been in. Isabella was in her crib making those soft sleep sounds babies make. I lifted her gently. Her eyes opened, confused at first, then recognizing me. Her face broke into the most beautiful smile I'd ever seen. For 2 hours I forgot everything else. We played with the doll. She loved the shoes, kept taking them on and off, giggling every time. I read her stories from the books I'd brought, made funny voices that made her laugh so hard she hiccuped. At midnight she fell asleep in my arms. Heavy and warm and perfect, my ex-mother-in-law appeared in the doorway. "You should stay until morning." "I have work at 7. Can I sleep on the couch?" "No room." I looked around. The couch was right there. 3 empty bedrooms upstairs. "Please, just a few hours." "No room." She repeated, her voice cold and final. She'd never forgiven me for the divorce she'd pushed for, never forgiven me for existing. I laid Isabella in her crib, kissed her forehead. "Daddy loves you. I'll come back soon." She murmured something in her sleep that sounded like Papa. Outside, the rain had started. Not heavy yet, but promising to be. Thunder rumbled in the distance. My phone was dead. I checked my watch. 12:15. If I walked fast, I could reach El Coco Junction by 3:30, catch the 4 o'clock bus to Jutiapa, and be in Guatemala City by 9. Late for work, but I could explain. At the edge of the village, there was a small tienda still open, just a weak oil lamp burning inside. An old man sat behind the counter, so ancient he looked like he'd been carved from wood and left in the sun to dry. I bought the cheapest flashlight they had. 3 quetzales, barely brighter than a candle. Also bought a bottle of water and some cookies. The old man watched me pack the items. "You're walking to El Coco Junction. Now, no choice." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached under the counter and pulled out a small wooden crucifix barely bigger than my thumb. "Take this." "I can't take it." His voice carried weight authority. "And if you see them, you pray. You pray to San Miguel Arcangel. You understand, not God, not Jesus, San Miguel. He's the only one who can help you. See who, you'll know. Sir, I don't believe in. Doesn't matter what you believe. Elena Castillo and Mateo, they don't care about belief. They care about company. They've been alone since August 15th, 1982. 37 years alone. And they're tired of being alone. The way he said their names like they were real people made something cold slide down my spine. Who are they? He pulled out an old newspaper clipping, yellowed and brittle, protected in a plastic sleeve. The headline read, Madre e hijo desaparecen cruzando Rio Purula. There was a photo. A young woman with long dark hair, exhausted eyes, holding a little boy with a gap-toothed smile. He was clutching a toy car. Elena Castillo, 26 years old. Mateo Castillo, 4 years old. Civil War. She was running from soldiers trying to reach El Salvador. Tried to cross Rio Purula at night. The water was high from rain. They drowned. Found them 3 days later, caught in the brush underwater. That's terrible, but their throats were cut, ear to ear, both of them. He traced a line across his own neck. Officials said sharp rocks, but there were witnesses. Soldiers caught them first, did things, then threw them in the river. I stared at the photo, the boy's smile, the mother's protective hand on his shoulder. Since then, people see them, on the road between El Tempisque and the bridge. A woman and a child by La Piedra Grande, the big stone. They look like they're waiting for help. But if you stop, if you get close, they follow you. The boy climbs on your back, the mother walks beside you, and they don't let go. They want you to join them, down in the river, so they won't be alone anymore. That's just a story. 37 people have disappeared on that road since 1982. 37. Police say robbery accidents, wild animals, but we know, the families know. He pushed the crucifix into my hand. Pray to San Miguel, and don't look at them directly, don't speak to them, just pray and keep moving. I took the crucifix because refusing felt wrong, felt dangerous somehow, even though every rational part of my brain screamed that this was superstitious nonsense. Thank you. You have a daughter? Yes, that's why I came. Something changed in his expression, softened. Elena was a mother too. Maybe she'll remember that. Maybe she'll let you go, or maybe... He didn't finish. I stepped out into the rain. It was falling harder now, cold drops that soaked through my shirt within seconds. I turned on my pathetic flashlight. The beam barely reached 3 meters ahead. Behind me, Don Vicente stood in his doorway, silhouetted by lamplight. He raised his hand slowly, palm out. Stop. Turn back. His face looked ancient and sad, like a painting of someone who'd already seen how this story ended. That was the last human face I saw that night. The road out of Las Pilas was dirt-rutted from truck tires, lined on both sides by dense vegetation that seemed to lean inward. My flashlight created a small circle of light that moved with me, an island of visibility in an ocean of darkness. At first the sounds were normal, cicadas screaming, frogs calling, wind rustling through banana leaves and sugar cane, thunder rolling across the sky, each boom like God dropping furniture in heaven. My shoes squelched in mud with every step. The rain soaked my hair, ran down my face, made my clothes heavy and cold against my skin. I could taste it, that clean mineral taste of rain mixed with dirt and vegetation. I thought about Isabella, her smile, the way she'd hug that doll. I hummed the lullaby I used to sing when she was a newborn before everything fell apart. 30 minutes in, I noticed the cold. It shouldn't have been cold. June in Guatemala, even at night, stays warm, humid, tropical. But my breath was misting in front of my face. My fingers were numb. I could see goosebumps on my arms despite the rain. Just elevation, I told myself. We're near the mountains. Temperature drops at night in the highlands. But I knew the geography. This area wasn't high enough for cold like this. Lightning struck somewhere close. The flash turned everything white for 2 heartbeats. In that brief illumination, I saw the road ahead stretching empty and dark. Trees on both sides. Nothing unusual. Then darkness returned more complete than before, like the lightning had stolen some of the world's light. That's when I felt it. That primal sensation that predates language. The feeling that something is watching you, that you're not alone, that you become prey. I spun around, flashlight beam cutting through rain. Nothing. just the road behind me disappearing into darkness. I kept walking faster now, my heart rate climbing, breathing harder than the exertion warranted. Another lightning flash. This time I saw it. On the left side of the road, maybe 20 meters back, standing under a tree, a figure. Tall, thin. Completely still. Just standing there in the rain watching me. Darkness returned. Hola. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Necesita ayuda. No response. Just rain and thunder and my own breathing too loud in my ears. I told myself it was a tree. A trick of the light and shadow. The mind creating patterns from chaos. But I'd seen it. The shape was too deliberate, too human. I walked faster. 10 minutes later, another flash. 2 figures this time. Right side of the road, closer than the first one tall, one short. Both facing my direction. Both absolutely motionless despite the wind and rain. The darkness seemed to laugh at me when it returned. My flashlight began to flicker. The LED pulsed bright dim, bright dim. I smacked it against my palm. It steadied, for now. I was running out of rational explanations. Trees don't appear in different places. Don't come in different sizes. Don't stand on dirt roads. The thunder had become constant now, rolling across the sky like artillery fire. And with each lightning flash, I saw more of them. 5 figures scattered along the road. 7, 10, all standing still, all watching, all getting closer with each flash as if they moved in the darkness between lightning strikes. My hands were shaking, not from cold anymore. I pulled out my dead phone, pressed the power button, desperately praying for even 1% of battery. The screen stayed black. I was alone, truly alone, and whatever was out there knew it. The smell hit me then, faint at first, carried on the wind. Not rain, not vegetation, something rotten, something that had died and been left in water too long. I walked faster, almost jogging now, my breath coming in ragged gasps that had nothing to do with physical exertion. Then I saw the lights. 2 street lamps in the distance glowing like salvation. El Tempisque, the small hamlet before the river, almost halfway there. Relief flooded through me so intense I almost laughed. See nothing, just paranoia and superstition and an overactive imagination. Under the first street lamp was La Piedra Grande, the big stone. I'd rested there before during daylight trips. A normal landmark, except tonight someone was already there. Even from 50 meters away I could see them clearly now. A woman and a child sitting on the stone, heads down, long wet hair hanging over their faces, neither moving despite the rain and wind. The rational part of my brain offered explanations. Travelers waiting for a ride, locals taking shelter, someone in trouble who needed help. But the smell was stronger now, much stronger. That rot smell, that dead thing in water smell, thick enough to taste. And somewhere in my gut, in that ancient part of the brain that still remembers when humans were prey, I knew. I knew who they were. I knew what they were. And I knew I had to walk past them anyway because there was no other road home. I approached slowly, every instinct screaming at me to run the other direction, but the road only went forward. There was no alternate route, no shortcut through the jungle, just this one muddy path between 2 walls of vegetation, and they were sitting directly in my way. At 40 meters, the smell became overwhelming. I gagged, pressed my sleeve against my nose and mouth, but it didn't help. The stench soaked through the fabric, invaded my sinuses, coated the back of my throat. It wasn't just rot, it was specific. The smell of flesh that had been submerged, waterlogged, breaking down in slow motion over weeks or months or years. I'd smelled death before. Working security, you see things, accidents, heart attacks. Once a suicide in the parking garage. But this was different. This was death that refused to finish dying. At 30 meters, details emerged under the sickly yellow glow of the street lamp. The woman wore a white dress, or it had been white once. Now it was the color of mud and algae clinging to her body in wet folds. Her hair hung down past her shoulders, straight and black and dripping, obscuring her face completely. Her hands rested on her knees. The skin looked wrong, too pale, almost gray-blue in the lamplight. The boy sat pressed against her side, same coloring, same stillness. He wore shorts and a shirt that might have been red once, but now looked brown with dirt and decay. His small hands clutched something, that toy car from the photograph. My flashlight beam touched them. Neither reacted. Didn't look up. Didn't acknowledge my presence at all. Maybe they really were just travelers. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the woman's head tilted slightly, not toward me, toward the sky, and I saw her throat, a line across it, ear to ear, not a cut, a gash. Wide enough that I could see the damaged tissue inside the severed muscles, the dark hollow where her windpipe should have been. The edges of the wound were ragged, swollen, like meat left too long in water. My legs locked. I couldn't move forward, couldn't move back. Just stood there, flashlight shaking in my grip, staring at something that shouldn't exist. The boy's head tilted too, same angle, same direction, and his throat bore the same wound, smaller, proportional to his size, but just as deep, just as wrong. From the woman's wound something dripped, not blood, too dark, too thick. It oozed out slowly like oil, forming a small puddle on the stone beneath her. I need to pass them, I thought. I need to keep moving. They're not real. They can't be real. This is shock, exhaustion, some kind of hallucination from stress and lack of sleep. But my body knew better. My body understood what my mind refused to accept. I forced my right foot forward. One step. The mud sucked at my shoe. I pulled it free, took another step, then another. Don't look at them directly, Don Vicente had said. Don't speak to them. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, on the darkness beyond the street lamps. Let them stay in my peripheral vision. Just shadows. Just shapes. Nothing more. 20 meters. 15. 10. The woman lifted her head fully now. I saw it from the corner of my eye. Saw her face emerge from behind the curtain of hair. Saw features that had once been human, now bloated and distorted. Her eyes were open, milky white, unseeing, or seeing things I couldn't. Her mouth opened. The wound in her throat gaped wider, and she made a sound. Not words, not a scream, a gurgle, deep and wet like someone drowning trying to breathe through water-filled lungs. The sound bubbled up from somewhere inside her chest, escaped through the hole in her throat, echoed in the rain-soaked night. Gilarlarlarl. Every hair on my body stood up. I walked faster. 5 meters from the stone now, almost past them, almost clear. The boy stood up, smoothly, fluidly, no childlike clumsiness. Just rose to his feet in one motion, still clutching that toy car. His head swiveled, tracking my movement. Those milky eyes fixed on me. I was beside them now, level with the stone. I could see every detail. The texture of their skin wrinkled and peeling like paper left in bathwater. The way their clothes hung on swollen limbs, the black liquid that dripped steadily from both their throats, pattering onto the stone like a second rain. Don't stop, don't look, don't speak. I took 3 more steps past them, then I felt it. Weight, sudden and impossible, on my shoulders, pressing down so hard my knees nearly buckled. I looked down. 2 small legs dangled over my chest, pale, bloated, cold even through my shirt. The boy was on my back. I hadn't heard him move, hadn't felt him climb. He was just there clinging to me, his arms wrapped around my neck, his weight crushing down on my spine like someone had dropped a sack of wet concrete on my shoulders. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." My hands reached back instinctively, grabbed his legs. The skin felt like raw meat, cold and slippery and soft in a way skin shouldn't be soft. My fingers sank in slightly, like pressing into rotten fruit. The boy gripped tighter. His small hands clutched my shirt, twisted the fabric. I felt his face press against the side of my head. Cold, so cold it burned. His breath against my ear, if you could call it breath. More like cold air escaping a tomb. I tried to pull him off, grabbed his arms, his hands, anything I could reach. But he held on with impossible strength. His fingers dug into my shoulders, through my shirt, into my skin. I felt nails break skin, felt warm blood start to trickle down my chest. The weight increased, 50 kilograms, 60, 70. Far more than any 4-year-old should weigh, far more than I should be able to support. My spine compressed. My shoulders burned. My legs shook with the strain. I stumbled forward trying to run, but each step was harder than the last, like walking through deep water, like the air itself was fighting me. Then she was beside me. I didn't see her approach, didn't hear footsteps. She was just there walking at my pace, matching my speed exactly, close enough that I could smell her. That rot smell, that underwater death smell, so strong now it made my eyes water. Her head turned toward me, hair falling away from her face, and I saw her fully. Elena Castillo, 26 years old, dead for 37 years. Her face was a nightmare. Skin the color of spoiled milk stretched tight over bone, lips pulled back from teeth in something that might have been a smile or might have been the natural contraction of waterlogged tissue. Those white eyes fixed on mine, looking at me, seeing, knowing me, and from the wound in her throat that black liquid poured. Not dripped, poured, like someone had turned on a faucet. It ran down her chest, soaked her dress, dripped onto the road. Where it landed, steam rose hissing like acid. She opened her mouth. The throat wound stretched obscenely wide, and she made a sound that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Crying. She was crying, but wrong, all wrong. Each sob was a gurgle, a wet, choking sound like someone trying to scream underwater, like drowning while conscious, like dying over and over forever. GLRL, sob glurl, the sound pierced straight through my skull. Not just hearing it, but feeling it, vibrating in my bones, in my teeth, in my chest. I tried to run, managed 3 steps before the weight on my back increased again. 80 kilograms, 90, 100, impossible. The boy couldn't weigh this much. Nothing could. My knees gave out. I fell forward, hands hitting mud, the impact jarring through my wrists. The boy stayed on my back, pressed down, crushing me. His face against my ear, his cold fingers digging deeper into my shoulders. And then he spoke. His voice was a whisper, dry, papery, like wind through dead leaves. Quédate con nosotros. Stay with us. Elena's crying grew louder, more frantic. The gurgling sobs mixed with something else. Laughter. She was laughing now, high-pitched and insane, bubbling through the liquid in her throat. GLRL, kikiki, GLRL, kikiki. I crawled forward, dragging myself through mud, the boy on my back, Elena walking beside me, crying, laughing, drowning. Every movement was agony. Every breath was fire in my lungs. I managed 2 meters, 3, then I couldn't move anymore. My arms gave out. I collapsed face first into the mud, tasting dirt and rain and despair. The boy's arms squeezed tighter around my neck. Not choking, just holding, like a child afraid of falling. But his grip was crushing my windpipe. Black spots appeared in my vision. Elena crouched beside me. I could see her from the corner of my eye, could see that black liquid dripping from her throat onto my shoulder. Where it touched my skin, it burned. Actual burning, searing pain. I smelled my own flesh cooking. Her hand reached out, touched my face. Her fingers were like ice, like dead things. She traced a line down my cheek, almost gentle, almost loving, the way a mother might touch her child. Mi hijo, she whispered through the gurgling. Mi hijo necesita un amigo. My son needs a friend. The weight on my back increased impossibly. 110 kilograms, 120. My ribs creaked. My spine felt like it would snap. I couldn't breathe anymore. Couldn't think. The world was narrowing to a pinpoint of consciousness surrounded by drowning darkness. This is how I die, I thought. On a muddy road in Guatemala, crushed by a ghost child while his ghost mother watches. Isabella will never know what happened to me. She'll grow up thinking her father abandoned her, just like her grandmother always said. Elena's laughter reached a crescendo, wild, ecstatic, triumphant. Then it stopped. Not gradually, instantly, like someone had cut the sound with scissors. The weight on my back didn't decrease, but something changed. The air, the temperature, the quality of the darkness. Elena's hand jerked away from my face. I heard her make a different sound. Not laughter, not crying. A hiss. Sharp and angry and afraid. The boy's grip loosened, just slightly, but enough. What's happening? My oxygen-starved brain couldn't process it. Then I remembered. The crucifix, still in my pocket. With the last of my strength, my hand fumbled for it. Fingers numb and clumsy. Found it. Pulled it out. Gripped it so hard the edges cut into my palm, and I prayed. Not because I was religious, not because I believed, but because it was all I had left. San Miguel Arcangel. My voice was barely a whisper, barely breath. Defiéndenos en la batalla, the boy screamed. Not a child's scream, an animal scream, a sound of pure rage and pain, like metal scraping concrete, like nails on a chalkboard amplified 1,000 times. His grip broke, completely, suddenly. He fell off my back and I heard him hit the ground behind me with a wet thud. Se nuestro amparo contra la perversidad y acechanzas del demonio. I forced myself up, first to hands and knees, then to my feet. My legs shook so badly I could barely stand. Blood ran down my shoulders where the boy's nails had dug in. My left shoulder burned where Elena's liquid had touched it. But I was standing. I was free. Elena had backed away. 3 meters. 4. Her white eyes were fixed on the crucifix in my hand. Her mouth opened and closed. More of that black liquid pouring out. Her body bent at wrong angles, spine arching backward, head tilted at a neck-breaking angle. Behind me I heard Mateo crawling, not walking, crawling on all fours, his joints cracking, moving in that wrong way things move in nightmares, retreating toward his mother. I kept praying, louder now, voice gaining strength. Que Dios manifieste sobre el su poder humildemente lo pedimos. The temperature changed. The impossible cold began to lift, replaced by warmth, sudden and shocking, like stepping from a freezer into sunshine. The rot smell faded, replaced by something else, something clean. Flowers. I swear to God, I smelled flowers. Hibiscus. The smell of my grandmother's garden. Impossible in this place of mud and rain and death. And the light changed, too. The sickly yellow of the street lamp was joined by something else. A golden glow, sourceless, soft, growing brighter. Elena screamed, a sound that came from her ruined throat and her mouth simultaneously. A stereo scream of rage and terror and agony. Y tu príncipe de la milicia celestial con el poder que Dios te ha conferido. I felt it then. The presence, behind me, between me and them. I didn't look, couldn't look, didn't dare, but I felt it, him. Something massive, protective, radiating heat and light and power that made Elena and Mateo seem like shadows, like smoke, like nothing. The air pressure changed, like 2 storms colliding, like titans pushing against each other with me caught in the middle. But the middle was safe, the middle was sanctuary. Arroja al infierno a Satanás y a los demás espíritus malignos que vagan por el mundo para la perdición de las almas. Amen. Elena and Mateo were gone. Not fading, not walking away, just gone, between one heartbeat and the next. The stone was empty. The road was empty. Only rain and darkness and the smell of flowers that shouldn't exist. I stood there swaying crucifix clutched in my bloody hand, trying to understand what had just happened. The presence behind me faded. The warmth receded. The golden light dimmed. But before it disappeared completely, I felt something. Like a hand on my shoulder, gentle, reassuring. Then it was gone. I was alone on a dark road in the rain. But I was alive. My legs nearly gave out. I caught myself on a tree trunk, breathing hard, heart hammering. My whole body shook, not from cold, from shock, from adrenaline crash, from having touched death and somehow impossibly being released. I looked at my hands. The crucifix had left a deep imprint in my right palm, the shape carved into my skin. Blood welled in the grooves. My left shoulder throbbed where Elena's liquid had burned me. Through my torn shirt I could see the skin was red and blistered. My shoulders ached where Mateo's fingers had dug in. I reached back, touched, felt torn fabric, felt blood, 4 lines on each shoulder, deep scratches, claw marks from a 4-year-old who'd been dead since 1982. Evidence. I had evidence. This happened. This was real. I forced myself to move, away from that stone, away from that place. I walked, then jogged, then ran as fast as my exhausted body would allow. The bridge over Rio Purula appeared 15 minutes later, old wooden planks, dark water rushing below, loud and violent from the rain. This is where they died, where they drowned, where soldiers threw them in with their throats cut. I didn't slow down. Ran across the bridge, feet pounding on wet wood, half expecting hands to reach up from the water, to grab my ankles, to pull me down, but nothing happened. I reached the other side, left the river behind. The rain was lessening, the thunder growing distant. I kept walking, fast, paranoid, clutching the crucifix, praying continuously under my breath. Behind me, carried on the wind, I heard it, faint but clear, a woman's voice crying, that wet, gurgling cry, and underneath it, quieter, a child's voice. Papa, espera. Daddy, wait. I didn't look back, didn't slow down, just prayed harder and walked faster. At 3:15, I checked my watch. Should be close to El Coco Junction by now. But nothing looked familiar. The road was wrong. The trees were wrong. Had I taken a turn somewhere impossible? There was only one road. I stopped disoriented, trying to figure out where I was. Behind me, those small footsteps, light, rhythmic, child-sized, keeping pace, always 10 meters back. I started walking again. The footsteps resumed. I stopped. They stopped. This went on for 20 minutes, me walking, them following, an invisible child matching my every movement. My mind was fracturing. Reality felt thin, like tissue paper stretched too tight, like I could poke through it and find something else underneath, something worse. At 3:30, exhaustion won. I couldn't walk anymore. My legs were shaking so badly I could barely stand. My vision was blurring, my thoughts fragmenting. I found a large tree. Sat with my back against the trunk, just for a minute, just to catch my breath. The footsteps came closer, closer, stopped right beside me. I kept my eyes closed. Didn't look, couldn't look. San Miguel, I whispered. If you're still with me, don't leave me here. Isabella needs me. Please, take me home. I felt something then, a small hand on my shoulder, light, cold, resting there, not grabbing, not hurting, just touching. Then it was gone. My eyes were so heavy I couldn't keep them open anymore, couldn't fight it anymore. I let the darkness take me. In that darkness I dreamed or saw, or experienced something beyond dreaming. I saw Isabella, smiling, growing up happy. I saw Elena and Mateo, but different, clean, peaceful, dry clothes, no wounds. Elena held Mateo's hand. They were walking away from me, fading into light. I saw wings, massive, white, shining with that same golden light. They folded around me, protecting, carrying. I saw the road passing beneath me, not walking, flying, being carried. Time lost meaning, space lost meaning. There was only warmth and light and the sensation of being carried by something infinitely gentle and infinitely powerful. Then, nothing. A truck horn jolted me awake. Honk, honk, honk. My eyes snapped open. Daylight. Gray dawn light. I was sitting on something hard. Something that wasn't a tree. I looked around confused, disoriented. I was on a bench, a bus stop bench. A metal sign above me read El Coco, Salida a Guatemala. I was at the junction. I was at my destination. But that was impossible. The last thing I remembered was sitting against a tree at least 8 kilometers away. At 3:30 in the morning, I checked my watch. 5:47. I'd lost more than 2 hours and traveled 8 kilometers with no memory of walking. How my clothes were still wet, still muddy. My shoes were covered in red dirt. My shirt was torn. But I was here. An old woman was standing nearby waiting for the bus. She was staring at me with wide eyes. "Senora," I said, my voice rough. "How long have I been here?" She hesitated. "I don't know, son. When I arrived 20 minutes ago, you were already sleeping on that bench." "Did you see me arrive?" "No, but—" She looked uncomfortable. When I first got here, I thought there were two people with you. A woman standing behind you, a boy sitting next to you. But when I came closer to see if you were all right, you were alone. Must have been the fog. My blood went cold. Two people, a woman and a child. But I'm old. My eyes play tricks sometimes. What did they look like? Wet, she said simply. They looked wet, like they'd been swimming, and they were just standing there, watching you sleep. But then I blinked and they were gone, so I must have imagined it. She hadn't imagined it. They'd been with me, watching me, until something else came. Something that made them leave. I looked down at myself. My shoulders throbbed. I pulled my torn shirt aside. 4 lines on each shoulder, deep scratches, already scabbing over but clearly visible, unmistakable. My left shoulder had a mark, too, a burn, brownish red, shaped like a handprint, a woman's handprint with long, thin fingers, and my right palm. The crucifix had left its mark, the shape carved deep, the wood grain visible in the impression. Evidence, physical evidence that what happened was real. The 6 o'clock bus arrived. I climbed on, moving like a man 3 times my age, found a seat near the back, collapsed into it. As the bus pulled away, I looked out the window at the old woman still standing there. She raised her hand, not waving, warning, the same gesture every person who knew about that road had made. The bus rolled through the awakening countryside, through villages where people were starting their days, normal people doing normal things. Living in a world where ghosts didn't exist, where the dead stayed dead. I envied them. I fell asleep somewhere between El Coco and Jutiapa. When I woke, we were pulling into Guatemala City, 11 o'clock. I'd missed work. I didn't care. I called my boss from the bus station, told him I was sick, food poisoning, needed the day. He wasn't happy, but agreed. I went home, to my cramped apartment that smelled like coffee and exhaust, locked the door, triple-checked the lock, closed all the curtains, drew all the blinds. I needed to be in a small enclosed space, a space I could control, a space that felt safe. In the bathroom, I examined my injuries under harsh fluorescent light. The scratches were deep, 4 parallel lines on each shoulder, evenly spaced, like someone had grabbed me with both hands and dug their nails in. But the spacing was wrong for adult hands, too small, child-sized. The burn on my left shoulder was worse than I thought. The skin was blistered and weeping. And the shape was unmistakable, a handprint. I could see individual fingers, long, thin, with pointed tips. The imprint on my palm had faded slightly, but was still clearly visible. The crucifix shape, the details of the wood grain, like a brand. I took photographs, documented everything, proof, evidence, in case anyone ever asked, in case I ever doubted my own sanity. Then I tried to wash it all away, stood in the shower for 40 minutes, scrubbed my skin until it was raw, washed my hair 3 times, tried to wash away the smell, the memory, the feeling of dead hands touching me. But some things don't wash away. I looked in the mirror, studying my face. Still me. Still Diego. Still alive. Then I blinked. My reflection blinked back. But wrong. Wrong timing. My reflection's eyes closed and opened a half second after mine did. I stared, blinked again. Normal now. Perfect synchronization. Just tired, I whispered to my reflection. Just exhausted, just trauma playing tricks. But I grabbed a towel and covered the mirror anyway. Over the next week, I tried to return to normal. Went to work, did my rounds, came home, slept, repeat. But the nightmares started. Every night the same dream. I was underwater in Rio Purula, the current pulling me down, my lungs burning. I needed air. I kicked toward the surface, but something grabbed my ankle. Mateo. His small hand wrapped around my leg, his white eyes looking up at me. "Quédate con nosotros," he said, his voice clear even underwater. "Stay with us." Elena appeared beside him, her hair floating around her face like seaweed, that wound in her throat gaping open, black liquid pouring out mixing with the river water. "Mi hijo está solo," she said. "My son is alone." She reached for me. Her fingers touched my face. Cold, burning cold. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. Every night at 3:15, the same time I'd blacked out on that road. My shoulder was always burning when I woke. I'd pull down my shirt, the handprint would be glowing faintly in the dark. A sickly, greenish phosphorescence, like foxfire, like the glow of decomposing things. I turned on every light in the apartment. The glow faded, but the burn throbbed. This happened every night for 2 weeks. I started drinking coffee at midnight, refused to sleep. When exhaustion finally took me, the nightmares were waiting. On June 15th, 2 weeks after that night, I drove to Las Pilas. Needed to see Isabella, needed to hold something real and alive and good during the day. With the sun high and bright, I told myself it would be different in daylight. As I approached La Piedra Grande around 2 in the afternoon, I saw them. Just for a second, a flicker. Elena and Mateo sitting on the stone. Then I blinked and they were gone. But I'd seen them, in broad daylight, under the hot sun. I made it to Las Pilas, spent 3 hours with Isabella. She was walking now, almost running. She'd grown so much in 2 weeks, and when I picked her up, she pointed at my shoulder, at the burn mark visible above my collar. "Boo-boo," she said, her word for injury. "Yes, baby, boo-boo. Kiss it better." She leaned in and kissed my shoulder, right over the handprint. And for a moment the burn stopped hurting. I left before sunset, drove fast. Didn't stop at La Piedra Grande. Didn't even look at it as I passed. Kept my eyes straight ahead, but in my rearview mirror I saw them, standing by the stone, watching me drive away. Elena raised one hand, not waving, not threatening, just acknowledging me. "I knew you," her gesture said. "I touched you, and you're mine now." The nightmares continued. The handprint glowed every night. I was falling apart. On June 23rd, I went back to Don Vicente's shop, needed answers, needed help. The old man looked older somehow, like the weight of knowing too much had aged him years and weeks. "You came back," he said when he saw me. Not surprised, sad. "I need to understand what happened, what they are, why they won't leave me alone." He poured 2 cups of strong coffee. We sat in the back room away from customers. "You survived," he said. "That's rare. Most people who get that close either disappear or go mad. I prayed, like you said. San Miguel came. Yes, he protects those who call on him, but protection and freedom aren't the same thing." "What do you mean?" Don Vicente sighed, pulled out that newspaper clipping again, looked at Elena and Mateo's faces. "You saw them. You spoke to them. You felt them. That creates a connection, a bond. They know you now, and they won't forget. How do I break the bond?" "You can't." His words were flat, final. "Once they touch you, you're marked. The handprint on your shoulder, that's not just a burn, it's a claim. She's saying you belong to them now." My blood went cold. So what? They're going to come back. Try to take me again. Maybe, maybe not. "It depends." "On what?" "On whether she remembers being human, being a mother." He leaned forward. "Elena died trying to save her son. That was her last thought, her last feeling. Maternal love. It's the only thing that might protect you." "Why?" "Because you're a father, too. You were going to see your daughter. She felt that, recognized it. That's why she let you go. That's why San Miguel was able to reach you, because part of her, some small part buried under the curse, wanted to let you go. But not completely. No, not completely." Don Vicente traced the edge of his coffee cup. "The boy doesn't understand. He's been 4 years old for 37 years. To him, you're just another person who might stay and play with him. Keep him company. He doesn't mean to hurt you. He's just lonely." "What about the others? The 37 people who disappeared?" Don Vicente's face darkened. "Most of them stopped to help. Saw a woman and child who looked like they needed assistance. Got too close. The ones who survived, they're not the same. Some went mute. Some developed phobias so severe they can't function. One man gouges his own shoulders every month, says he can feel the boy climbing back on. And the ones who didn't survive, drowned, all of them. Even the ones who were nowhere near water. found with river water in their lungs, river weeds in their hair, as if they'd been underwater for days. I thought about that, the horror of it, drowning on dry land, being pulled into death by ghosts who wanted company. There was a priest, I said, 10 years ago. What happened to him? Don Vicente's expression turned grim. Father Morales, good man, experienced exorcist. He heard about Elena and Mateo, decided to help them. Performed a full exorcism ritual on the bridge, blessed the water, tried to release their spirits. And they found him 3 days later, in the river, his throat cut, ear to ear, just like them. Don Vicente's voice dropped. The exorcism made them worse, more aggressive, more desperate. Before that, they'd appear maybe once a month, after that every night. And the drownings increased. 5 people died that year. So they can't be helped, can't be freed. No, every attempt makes them suffer more, makes them angrier. They don't want salvation, they want company. They want their death to mean something, to not be forgotten. I finished my coffee. It had gone cold. What do? You survive, you stay vigilant, and you never ever walk alone at night, not just on that road, anywhere, because the bond works both ways. If you're vulnerable, if you're alone, if you're in a place where the barrier between worlds is thin, they can find you. Even in Guatemala City, even there, maybe not as easily. Cities have too many people, too much light, too much noise. But on quiet streets, empty parking lots late at night, he shook his head. Keep the crucifix with you always. Keep praying. And if you ever feel that weight on your shoulders again, pray and run. Pray and run. I left the shop with more understanding, but no comfort. I was marked, claimed, connected to 2 ghosts who'd been alone for 37 years, and they weren't going to let me forget it. 2 weeks later, it happened again. I was working late, very late. The mall had closed hours ago. I was the last one in the building finishing a security report that was due the next morning. Around 1 a.m, I walked through the empty parking garage to my car. My footsteps echoed in the concrete space. The fluorescent lights hummed. Everything seemed normal. Then I felt it. That weight. Light at first, then heavier, pressing down on my shoulders. My heart stopped. No, not here, not in the city. But Don Vicente had warned me the bond works both ways. Anywhere I'm vulnerable. Anywhere the barrier is thin. And an empty parking garage at 1 a.m. that was thin enough. I didn't look back, didn't check, just knew. Mateo was on my back again. San Miguel Arcangel, I whispered, walking faster. Defiéndenos en la batalla. The weight increased. My car was 30 meters away, 20, 15. Se nuestro amparo contra la perversidad y acechanzas del demonio. 10 meters, 5. Behind me I heard it. That wet breathing. GLRL. Elena was here too. I reached my car, fumbled with the keys, dropped them, picked them up, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold them. Que Dios manifieste sobre el su poder. The door unlocked. I yanked it open, threw myself inside, slammed the door. The weight lifted. Gone. I looked in the rearview mirror. The parking garage was empty, just concrete and cars and harsh lighting, but on my back window, written in what looked like condensation, were the words, Siempre aquí, always here. I drove home with tears streaming down my face, not from fear, from exhaustion. From the realization that this would never end, that for the rest of my life they'd be there, waiting, watching, ready to remind me that some connections can't be broken. The nightmares intensified. The handprint glowed brighter. I was losing weight, losing sleep, losing myself. I started researching, looking for answers, looking for others who'd survived. I found forum posts, Reddit threads, blog entries, all describing similar experiences, road ghosts, hitchhiker spirits, entities that attached to travelers. Most ended badly. Suicides, disappearances, institutionalizations. But I found one post that gave me hope. A woman in Mexico who'd been haunted for years after encountering La Llorona. She'd finally found peace by doing something unexpected. She'd gotten them justice. The spirits haunting her were victims of a crime that had never been solved. Once she helped identify the killers once the case was reopened and prosecuted, the hauntings stopped. Justice. That's what they wanted. Not company, not revenge, justice. I thought about Elena and Mateo, about their throats cut, about soldiers who'd never been prosecuted, about a war crime that had been buried for 37 years. What if that's what they wanted? What if all the haunting, all the drowning, all the terror was just desperation? A desperate attempt to make someone care, to make someone investigate, to make someone remember that they'd been murdered and their killers had walked free. I made a decision. I contacted human rights organizations, historians, journalists, anyone who might care about a 40-year-old war crime. Most ignored me. Some thought I was crazy. But a few listened. I gave them names, dates, details from the newspaper article, details from Don Vicente, details from my own research. One organization took interest, started investigating, started digging through declassified military documents, and they found something. 3 soldiers, all still alive. All living comfortable lives in Guatemala City. All known to have operated in that area during August 1982. All with histories of violence against civilians. The organization built a case, gathered evidence, found witnesses who'd been too afraid to speak before. In November 2023, the 3 men were arrested. The trial started in January 2024. I was called as a witness. Not about the haunting, they didn't believe that part, but about finding the newspaper article, about bringing the case to their attention, about refusing to let it be forgotten. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I attended every day, watched the defendants, old men now, grandfathers, respectable citizens, murderers. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness testimony, documents, forensics from the original autopsies that had been ignored. On March 15, 2024, the verdict came. Guilty. All 3 defendants. Guilty of war crimes. Guilty of crimes against humanity. Guilty of murdering Elena Castillo and Mateo Castillo along with 17 others, 30 years in prison, each. I sat in the courtroom and cried, not from relief, from grief. Because justice came 42 years too late, because Elena never saw her son grow up, because Mateo never got to be anything except 4 years old and terrified. But it was something. It was acknowledgement, it was truth. That night I expected them to visit, to thank me, to say goodbye. But they didn't come, and I realized why. They were at rest now, really truly at rest. No more waiting, no more anger, no more drowning forever in that dark river. They were free. The next morning I woke at 7. Normal time, no nightmare, no 3:15 wake up, just normal sleep. I checked my shoulder in the bathroom mirror. The handprint was gone, completely gone. The skin was normal, unmarked, like it had never been there. I touched my shoulder. No pain, no heat, no scar tissue, just skin. The bond was broken. I should have felt relief, should have felt freedom. Instead, I felt empty. Like I'd been carrying a weight for so long that removing it left me unbalanced. For 3 days I kept checking, morning and night, looking for the handprint, waiting for it to reappear. But it stayed gone. The nightmares stopped. The 3:15 wake-ups ended. I slept through the night for the first time in 10 months. Normal life resumed, work, visits with Isabella, grocery shopping, laundry, all the mundane tasks that make up a life. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was unfinished. On March 20th, 5 days after the verdict, I drove to Las Pilas. Needed to tell Don Vicente. Needed to share the news with the one person who'd understand. His shop was closed. A handwritten sign on the door, cerrado por funeral, closed for funeral. My heart sank. I asked around the village, learned that Don Vicente had died 3 days ago, peacefully, in his sleep. He was 93 years old. The funeral was that afternoon. I attended, stood in the back of the small church, watched as the village said goodbye to a man who'd spent his life trying to warn people about that road. Afterward, his grandson approached me, a young man, maybe 20. "You're Diego Morales, right?" The one who helped with the Castillo case? Yes. My grandfather talked about you. Said you were the first person in his lifetime to survive them and help them. He handed me a small box. He wanted you to have this, made me promise to give it to you if anything happened to him. I opened the box. Inside was the crucifix. The one Don Vicente had given me that night. The one that had saved my life. And underneath it a note in shaky handwriting. Diego, you did it. You freed them. Now they can finally rest. Keep this. You might need it again. There are others who need help, others who need someone brave enough to listen. Vicente. I stood there in the cemetery holding that crucifix, understanding what he meant. Elena and Mateo weren't the only ones. There were others. Other victims of that road, that war, that time. Other souls trapped by violent deaths and forgotten histories. And Don Vicente thought I was the one to help them. I pocketed the crucifix, thanked his grandson, drove home. That night I made a decision. I wasn't going to seek out more ghosts. Wasn't going to become some paranormal investigator. But if they came to me, if they needed help, if there was justice to be found, I wouldn't turn away. The next few weeks were quiet, normal, peaceful. I visited Isabella every weekend, watched her grow. She was almost 2 now, starting to string sentences together, starting to have a personality beyond just baby. She was my anchor, my reason for everything. On April 10th, 3 weeks after the verdict, I drove to Las Pilas for her birthday party. Small celebration, just family. Isabella was excited about her cake, chocolate with pink frosting, 2 candles. After the party, after everyone left, I was packing up to drive home. The sun was setting. Golden hour. Everything looked peaceful. Isabella ran up to me, grabbed my hand. "Daddy, come see." "See what, baby?" "The lady and the boy. They're by the big rock." My blood went cold. "What lady?" "The nice lady with the long hair and the boy with the car." She tugged my hand. "Come on." I let her lead me out to the road, to where we could see La Piedra Grande in the distance. And they were there, Elena and Mateo sitting on the stone, but different. They looked solid, almost alive. The decay was gone. Elena's throat had no wound. Mateo looked healthy. They were clean, dry, normal. As I watched, Elena stood, took Mateo's hand. They turned toward us, and Elena smiled. Not the death grin I'd seen that night. A real smile, warm, grateful, peaceful. She raised her free hand, waved. A simple gesture. "Thank you." Then they faded, like morning mist burning away, like they'd never been there at all. Isabella waved back. "Bye-bye, lady. Bye-bye, boy. Can you see them, baby?" "Not anymore. They're gone." She looked up at me. "They looked happy, Daddy. Not sad anymore." I knelt down, hugged her tight. "Yeah, baby. They're happy now." That was the last time I saw them. Over the next year, life continued. Isabella grew. I got promoted at work. The nightmares never returned. The handprints stayed gone. But I kept the crucifix, kept it in my pocket always, just in case. On June 1st, 2024, exactly 5 years after that night, I woke at my normal time. 7 a.m. Made coffee, checked my phone. Nothing unusual, just another day. I went to work. Normal rounds. Normal reports. Normal everything. That evening I picked up Isabella. She was 6 now, in 1st grade, smart as a whip. We drove home talking about her week, her friends, her teacher, normal father-daughter conversation. As we pulled into my apartment complex parking lot, Isabella suddenly said, "Daddy, did you know the lady and the boy are watching you?" I hit the brakes harder than I meant to. "What?" "The lady with the long hair, the boy with the car, they're always with you. I can see them sometimes." She said it so casually, like commenting on the weather. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. "Where are they now?" "In the back seat." She turned around, looked. "They're smiling. The lady says you're a good daddy. The boy says thank you." I looked in the rearview mirror. Empty back seat. But then just for a fraction of a second I saw them, Elena and Mateo, sitting peacefully, looking at me with gratitude and peace, then gone. "They're gone now," Isabella said. "They don't come a lot, just sometimes, to check on you." I pulled into my parking space, turned off the engine, sat there trying to process what she'd just said. "Are they scary?" I finally asked. "No, they're nice. They make sure you're okay. They make sure I'm okay, too." She unbuckled her seatbelt. "The lady says they're your friends. Forever friends." We got out of the car, walked to my apartment, normal evening routine. But my mind was racing. They were still there, not haunting, not terrorizing, just there, watching, protecting. The bond hadn't broken. It had transformed. That night, after Isabella was asleep in the guest room, I sat on my couch thinking about everything that had happened. 5 years ago, I'd walked a dark road to see my daughter. I'd encountered death, survived it, changed it. And in return, death had changed me. I pulled out my phone, looked at the photos I'd taken that first morning. The scratches, the burn, the handprint that had glowed in the dark for months. All gone now, healed, invisible. But the memory remained, would always remain. I thought about Don Vicente's note, about others who needed help, about souls still trapped by violent deaths. Maybe that's my purpose now. Not to seek them out, but to be ready, to listen, to help when I can. I'm not a ghost hunter, not an investigator, just a man who survived something impossible and learned that sometimes the dead just need someone to remember them, to fight for them, to care. And if caring means carrying their memory forever, if it means being watched by a grateful ghost, if it means waking up sometimes and feeling a presence that isn't quite there, I can live with that. Because 5 years ago on a muddy road in Guatemala, Elena Castillo and Mateo Castillo had every reason to kill me, to drag me down into their eternal drowning. But they didn't. Because somewhere in what they'd become, they remembered being human, remembered love, remembered mercy. And now they remember me, not as a victim, as a friend. That's the truth. That's my story. That's what happened on the road to my daughter. Some journeys change you forever. Some deaths demand justice. And some ghosts just need someone to remember they were human once. I remembered, and they're grateful. And somehow, impossibly, that's enough.